Did you know, Sandy, that tobacco was the economic foundation of the first permanent English settlement in America at Jamestown in Virginia? I didn't, he admitted, but added, though I'm not surprised to hear it, and in a flash the worst was over. Many mishaps beset the Jamestown pioneers, the rabbi told him, but what saved them from starvation and saved the settlement from extinction was the cultivation of tobacco. Think of it, without tobacco, the first representative government in the New World would never have met at Jamestown as it did in 1619. Without tobacco, the Jamestown colony would have collapsed. The colonization of Virginia would have failed, and the first families of Virginia, whose wealth derived from their tobacco plantations, would themselves have never come to prominence. And when you remember that the first families of Virginia were the forebears of the Virginia statesmen who were our country's founding fathers, you appreciate tobacco's vital importance in the history of our republic. You do, Sandy answered. I myself, said the rabbi, was born in the American South. I was born 14 years after the tragedy of the Civil War. My father, as a young man, fought for the Confederacy. His father came from Germany to settle in Louisiana in 1850. He was a peddler. He had a horse and a wagon, and he wore a long beard and sold to the Negroes and to the white people both. Did you ever hear of Judah Benjamin? The rabbi asked Sandy. No, sir. But again he quickly righted himself, this time by replying, May I ask who he was? He was a Jew, and second only to Jefferson Davis in the government of the Confederacy. He was a Jewish lawyer who served Davis as Attorney General, as Secretary of War, and as Secretary of State. Prior to the secession of the South, he had served in the U.S. Senate as one of Louisiana's 2 senators, the cause for which the South went to war was neither legal nor moral in my judgment. Yet I have always held Judah Benjamin in the highest regard. A Jew was a rarity in America in those days, in the North no less than the South. But don't think there wasn't anti-Semitism to contend with back then. Nevertheless, Judah Benjamin came close to the very pinnacle of political success in the Confederate government. After the war was lost, he moved abroad to become a distinguished lawyer in England. Here my mother removed herself to the kitchen, purportedly to check on the dinner, and Aunt Evelyn said to Sandy, Maybe this is a good time for the rabbi to see the drawings you made on the farm. Sandy got up and carried over to the rabbi's chair the several sketchbooks that he had filled with drawings during the summer, and that he'd been holding in his lap since we'd all gathered in the living room. The rabbi took one of the books and began slowly turning the pages. Tell the rabbi a little about each picture, Aunt Evelyn suggested. There's the barn, Sandy said. That's where they hang tobacco and cure it after they harvest it. Well, that is a barn, all right, and a beautifully drawn barn. I very much like the pattern of light and dark. You're very talented, Sanford. And that's a tobacco plant growing. That's what they look like. See, it's shaped like a triangle. They're big. That one's still got the blossom on top. It's before they top it. And this tobacco plant, the rabbi said, turning to a new page, with the bag on the top. That is something I've never seen before. That's how they get the seed. That's a seed plant. They cover the blossom with a paper bag and tie it tight. It keeps the blossom the way they want it. Very, very good, the rabbi said. It isn't easy to draw a plant accurately and still make it into a work of art. Look how you've shadowed the undersides of the leaves. Very good indeed. And that's a plow, of course, Sandy said. And that's a hoe. That's a hand hoe, to do your weeding with, though you can also just use your hands. And did you weed much? The rabbi asked teasingly. Oh, boy, Sandy said, and Rabbi Bengelsdorf smiled, looking not at all now like a frightening figure. And that's just the dog, Sandy went on. Orrin's dog, he's sleeping. And that's one of the Negroes, old Henry. And those are his hands. I thought they had character. And who is this? That's old Henry's brother. That's Cleet. I like the way you've rendered him. How weary the man looks, slouching like that. I know those Negroes. I grew up with them, and I respect them. And this, just what would this be? The rabbi asked. Here, with the bellows. Well, a person's inside. That's how he sprays against tobacco worms. He has to dress like that from head to foot with big gloves and heavy clothes all buttoned up so he doesn't get burned. When he squirts the insecticide out through the bellows, he can burn himself with it. It's green, the dust. And when he's finished, his clothes are covered with it. I tried to get a look at the dust. I tried to make it lighter where the dust... I tried to get the look of the dust. I tried to make it lighter where the dust is, but I don't think it came out right. Well, I'm sure, said the rabbi, that it's hard to draw dust. And began to progress a little more rapidly through the remaining pages until he came to the end and closed the book. Kentucky was an experience that wasn't wasted on you, was it, young man? I loved it, Sandy replied, and my father, who had been silent and unmoving on the sofa since yielding the rabbi his favorite chair, got up and said, I have to help Bess. The way he might have said, I am now going to jump out the window and kill myself. The Jews of America, the rabbi told us at dinner, are unlike any other community of Jews in the history of the world. They have the greatest opportunity accorded to our people in modern times. The Jews of America can participate fully in the national life of their country. They no longer need to dwell apart, a pariah community separated from the rest. All that is required is the courage that your son Sandy displayed by going on his own into the unknown of Kentucky to work for the summer as a farmhand there. I believe that Sandy and the other Jewish boys like him in the Just Folks program should serve as models not only for every Jewish child growing up in this country, but for every Jewish adult. And this is not merely a dream of mine, it is a dream of President Lindbergh. Our ordeal had suddenly taken the worst possible turn. I'd not forgotten how in Washington my father had stood up to the hotel manager and the bullying policeman, and so now that Lindbergh's name had been spoken with deference in his home, I thought the moment had come when he would stand up to Bengelsdorf, but a rabbi was a rabbi, and he didn't. My mother and Aunt Evelyn served the meal, 3 courses followed by a marble cake freshly baked in our oven that afternoon. We ate off the good dishes with the good silverware, and in the dining room no less, where we had our best rug and our best furniture and our best linens, where we ourselves ate only on special occasions. From my side of the table you could see the photographic portraits of the family dead arranged atop the break front that was our memorial shrine. Framed there were 2 grandfathers, our maternal grandmother, a maternal aunt, and 2 uncles. One of them, Uncle Jack, Alvin's father, and my father's beloved older brother. In the aftermath of Rabbi Bengelsdorf invoking Lindbergh's name, I was more confused than ever. A rabbi was a rabbi, but Alvin, meanwhile, was in a Canadian Army hospital in Montreal, learning to walk on an artificial leg after having lost his own leg battling Hitler. And in my own house, where I was supposed to wear anything except my good clothes, I had to put on my one tie and my one jacket to impress the very rabbi